One of the simplest and most powerful ways to bring music into your homeschool is this. Listen widely, not to just one composer, not to just one musical era, not to just what feels familiar, but widely. When children are exposed to a variety of musical styles, something remarkable happens. Their ears begin to stretch, their listening deepens, their understanding of culture expands. Music becomes more than a background noise, it becomes a lens through which they can understand history, emotion, community, and creativity. The beauty of studying a variety of musical styles is that you don't need to be an expert. You don't need to lecture. You don't need to even prepare elaborate projects. You simply need intention. So today, our podcast episode will walk you through a wide range of musical styles that you can explore in your homeschool. You don't need to study them all at once. Think of it like a menu. Choose one per week or one per month, rotate through them across the year, revisit your favorites. And over time, your children will develop a broad musical vocabulary that serves them for life. If you are a homeschooler looking for ways to easily and affordably include a quality music education in your homeschool, you've come to the right place. This is the Music in Our Homeschool podcast. I'm Gena Mayo, homeschooling mom of 8 and music teacher for over 30 years. Before we dive into the styles themselves, let's pause and consider why variety is so important. When children hear only one type of music, whether it's contemporary Christian or pop or classical music or movie soundtracks, their musical vocabulary remains narrow. But when they regularly hear contrasting styles, they begin to recognize patterns and differences, compare instrumentation, notice rhythm and structure, connect music to historical events, understand how culture or geography shapes sound, and develop discernment and listening skills. Musical variety builds musical literacy naturally. And here's the encouraging part. You don't need hour-long lessons to accomplish this. You can use my 15-minute music lesson and have some intentional listening time, even once a week, and it will make a significant difference over time. Consistency matters over complexity. Many musical traditions across the globe trace rhythmic ideas back to West and Central African music. These traditions emphasize community participation, call and response, layered rhythms, which is called polyrhythms, movement and dance, and music for storytelling. Unlike concert-based traditions, African musical forms are communal. Everyone participates. Music is simply woven into daily life. One of the most important concepts to introduce your children to is call and response. With call and response, a leader sings or plays a phrase and the group answers. The structure appears again and again across centuries and genres. Another foundational element is polyrhythm. Multiple rhythms layered simultaneously. This rhythmic complexity becomes a defining feature in many later musical styles. Spirituals and folk songs is another musical style. It's music that preserves history long before textbooks existed. Spirituals developed in the United States among the enslaved African American people and express deep faith, endurance, and hope. These songs often draw on biblical imagery and sometimes carried coded messages. Folk music, whether in the Appalachian ballads or a sea shanty or a frontier song, also carries stories of everyday life, hardship, love, and work. What makes these styles ideal for homeschooling study is their accessibility. They're often very simple to sing, and it makes them participatory rather than purely observational. I encourage you to check out my course called A Folk Song a Day, and it gives you 36 different folk songs from a variety of places and eras. The blues is another style that you can explore in your homeschool. The blues emerged in the late 19th and early 20th centuries and became one of the most influential American musical forms. Blues music blends personal storytelling with a recognizable structure, often in a 12-bar blues pattern. This style is especially useful for teaching form because students can hear repetition clearly. Jazz is another style. It was born in New Orleans in the early 20th century, and it blends African rhythms, blues harmony, and European instruments. Its defining feature is improvisation. Improvisation teaches children that music can be responsive and conversational. Musicians listen carefully to each other and build ideas together in real time. A wonderful musician to introduce is Louis Armstrong, whose joyful tone and expressive phrasing helped shape early jazz. I have an entire course all about jazz music, so be sure to check out the accompanying blog post to find the link. Gospel music emphasizes harmony, repetition, and emotional intensity. It grew from spiritual traditions and highlights the communal power of music. Soul music blends gospel emotion with rhythm and blues groove. Artists such as Aretha Franklin use their voices to express identity, resilience, and dignity during times of cultural change. Studying soul music helps students see how music reflects historical movements. Classical music emphasizes written composition, form, and orchestration. Within classical music, there is enormous variety. You've got Baroque counterpoint from the 1600s through the mid-1700s. You've got classical clarity with composers such as Mozart and Haydn. Then you've got the romantic emotion of the 1800s with so many great composers such as Tchaikovsky and Brahms and Chopin. Impressionistic color from composers such as Ravel and Debussy in the early 1900s, and then the wide variety of music in the 20th century through modern times. Studying classical music will build your understanding of musical form, of instrument families, the role of the conductor, and the development of musical themes. Listening to a symphony movement teaches patience and attention to long-form structure as well. Beyond Western traditions, studying music from around the world will broaden your cultural understanding. You could check out Latin American rhythms, Irish folk music, Middle Eastern modal scales, or Asian traditional instruments. And then there's hip-hop. Hip-hop from the United States. It emphasizes rhythm, poetry, and storytelling. It continues the long tradition of using music to express identity and lived experience. When studying hip-hop from a musical perspective, focus on the beat structure, rhyme schemes, rhythm layering, and cultural context. Film music, one of my favorites, started, of course, in the 1900s and is still a major part of musical composition today. You can learn how the music builds tension and represents characters and how tempo can affect emotion within a film. And then there's opera and musical theater, where you're learning stories through songs. And the students can analyze how the songs reveal a character or repeated musical motifs, emotional arcs. This style is particularly engaging for multi-age families. So I hope you've enjoyed learning about some different musical styles today that you can include in your homeschool. Let me just review a few of those so you can pick out which one you'd like to start with. African rhythms, folk and spiritual traditions, blues, jazz, gospel, soul, classical music, world music, film music, opera, musical theater, and hip-hop. When you regularly rotate through musical styles, your children will begin to recognize musical patterns, learn how to speak confidently about music, connect music with history, develop discernment, and appreciate diversity. Most importantly, they'll become active listeners, and that's one of the greatest gifts you can give them. Music doesn't need to be complicated, but it does need to be consistent, and I encourage you to give your children at least one 15-minute music lesson a week. Head over to the accompanying blog post so that you can get links to all kinds of resources to help you accomplish this. Thanks for joining me today, my Harmony Heroes. Have a wonderful time listening to music this week in your homeschool.